What is going on today? We're going to be back testing a liquidity pool position to see how much returns we can expect to get from that liquidity pool position. And we're going to do so with various time frames because all of this is extremely important to understand, what and set that expectation before you actually deploy capital into the pool. So what I'm going to use is DeFi Buddy. This is the Crypto Labs research and the Underdog Investor Group's main tool that we use. And this is our in-house software and application to help us simulate this, this action. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here into DeFi Buddy. The URL is defibuddy.io, and I'm going to come here to the simulator button. Now we can actually do this in two ways. We could go to the liquidity pools, hunt and find the liquidity pool that you are looking for. So you can filter using the protocol and the chain, and then search the search function as well. That can allow you to find that specific liquidity pool you're looking for, or you can come here to the simulator directly and then type in exactly the pool that you're looking for. So for me, I'm just going to use the default one, which is on Uniswap, on the Arbitrum chain, wrapped ETH USDC on the 0.05% fee tier. This is a perfect one to simulate and see, okay, if I were to deploy capital at a specific range with this amount of capital, backtest it and see how much returns can I expect to be in this pool. Now, one thing to note and really understand is that this backtesting, this estimated fee box right here, is based on previous history. So there's no way of knowing how much we're actually going to earn in the future. We can only look at past data to help us estimate what we can expect moving forward. And the reason being for that is the backtesting idea here, where it shows us the estimated returns, is based on, again, in this example, the last 30 days of data, and that 30 days of data is pulling between the liquidity distribution and, more specifically, the volume history. That data is compiled to give us, hey, based on the range, based on how much capital you have, based on the previous history of volume, based on the liquidity distribution, this is what you can expect to earn if you enter this pool. But as I start to change the backtesting period here in a minute, you'll notice that that estimated APR is going to fluctuate, and that is due to the fact that it's either condensing or expanding the volume history. So again, I'll explain all of that in more detail in just a second. But first, what we need to do is make sure that we set a liquidity pool range in a range that we would want to deploy capital into. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this actually pretty close to what it is. I'm going to go like 2,700 to the downside, and then we'll go 2,700 to the downside, and we'll just keep it simple at like 3,200 to the upside. Or actually, let's go 28. Actually, yeah, 27. Let's do 27.33. Keep it super simple, super simple. So we're talking about roughly about a 20% wide range, bottom side 28,700, top side 3,300, with the current price just at over 3,000. Okay, so we need to make sure before we backtest that we're putting in the liquidity pool range that we might want to provide liquidity to. That's step number one. Step number two is deciding how much capital we're wanting to deploy into the pool. So one thing to note, a little education lesson for you, is that the ratio of the two assets in the pool is going to be dependent on where the current price is in relation to the range you're setting. And so with this, you can see that the current price is pretty close to right in the middle, but it's a little closer to the top side than it is to the bottom side. And so you can see that being reflected down here into the ratio. So based on this $1,000 position, I can expect to put about 57.4% in USDC and 42.6% in wrapped ETH. If I were to make this a $10,000 position, you can see that the ratios don't change, just the dollar value, or the quantity rather, of the assets is going to increase. So I would need, in this example, based on the range, based on where the current price is, 57.39 of USDC and 42.60 of wrapped ETH in terms of the dollar value of those two. Okay? That's step number two. Step number three now is for us to look at the estimated fees and backtest various logs. So what I like to do is I like to look at different time periods. I like to look at the last 2 days. I like to look at the last 7 days, the last week. I like to look at the last 2 weeks, last 14 days. I like to look at the last month, so the last 30 days, and then I like to expand it and look at the last 3 months as well, the last 90 days. So I'm going to look at all three of those periods, and we're going to kind of assess, based on the history of the volume history, what estimated returns I can expect based on the data in those various time frames. And all I'm trying to look for is roughly what is the estimated APR based on all of those different time frames. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to first start with 2 days. Let's go like this. Boom, 2 days. So in the last 2 days, we can expect about in the last 2 days, it's been around 73% APR, right? So that means in the last 2 days worth of data, that's how much the volume that's been coming through has produced on a $10,000 position, about $20 a day on average, let's just say. But if I were to expand and look at more data, so I don't want to just look at the last 2 days because that's too tight, that's too small of a window of data. I like to look at it, as info, but I also like to look at different time frames. So if I were to expand this out to the last 7 days, let that load, you can see that the estimated APR is actually up a little bit. And that means that in the last 7 days, there was a little bit more volume on average in comparison to just the last 2 days. So we're estimating about a 75% APR in the last 7 days. If I were to expand this out to the last 14 days, the last 2 weeks of data, you can see that the estimated APR was even greater, meaning there was more volume in that time period of those last 14 days. Again, if I were to expand it even more to the last 30 days, let's see what happens to the last 30 days. So again, we looked at the last 2 weeks and we saw 95 or something percent APR estimated in the last 30 days. So now we're expanding it to 2 more weeks included in that data, and the estimated APR is lower at 58%. So all this is telling me is that I can expect anywhere between 58% and 100%. Anywhere between 50 and 100% APR is what I can expect when I'm entering this liquidity pool. Again, it's just for us to set expectations. And then the last one I like to look at is the last 90 days. So I'd like to look at the last 3 months. If I were in this pool for the last 3 months, let's get to exactly 90. Way lower actually. So if I were in this liquidity pool based on this range, based on everything that it's showing here, based on the last 90 days of volume, I can expect an estimated APR of 21%. So the reason why I like to really zoom out and really look at that longer data is because what that tells me is in the last month, there's been more volume in this liquidity pool than there has been in the last 3 months. And so that means month 2 and month 3 in this data set is showing that there's been actually less volume than in the last month. So anyways, all I'm trying to show you at different time frames, that's going to help us set the expectation. So now the expectation for me is, I'm taking the low end and saying, okay, if I were to enter this pool, am I okay if the estimated APR, if the APR I'm actually going to get is around 20 to 30%? Would I be okay with that? If the answer is no, then maybe I need to make an adjustment, or I need to keep hunting for different pools or whatever it might be. But if the answer is yes, it's not ideal. Of course, I would love to earn 100% APR with good volume. But on the low side, if I did get 21%, am I okay with that? If the answer is yes, then this is a great pool for you, right? So anyways, hopefully that makes sense. This is exactly the process that I would go to back test liquidity pool performance and see, based on these different time frames, what are the rewards that I can expect to get? And that's what I'm using to make the decisions to get into the liquidity pool. So hopefully this made sense. Come use DeFi Buddy. I think it's a great tool. It's free to use, a great tool to help you, back test and helps you get that deeper information for you to make wiser decisions. So DeFiBuddy.io/simulator, you can come in here and test yourself and let us know if there's any ideas or if there's anything that we can do to make this app better. We are all ears. On the bottom right hand corner, you get direct feedback, or you can send us direct feedback right to our developer and our team. We'll be able to see that, and if it's a great idea, it might just end up on the roadmap. So hopefully that made sense. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them down below. If that being said, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.